So today, good afternoon, we'll have a little chat about pre-crime. Now, pre-crime is a very necessary part. That means that if someone is a threat to themselves or to other people, the police can just pick that person up and remove him from the community. They can be sectioned or detained wherever. So it's a very necessary crime, but the power the police have. But the only thing is it is a power that is wide open to abuse, because the police are masters at changing things. It's a bit like in the film Angelina Jolie called Changeling, where she won't accept that the boy that they've found is her son, and because she won't accept it, and they're telling her she has to conform and consent to their lie, their fabrication, because she won't obey, won't consent, won't comply, she's put into a psychiatric ward. And this is very much the case, with pre-crime. If you won't consent, you won't conform, you won't comply to a big monster lie, they only have to fabricate that you are a danger and a threat either to yourself or to other people. Any black frame will do, and you can literally be disappeared in broad daylight to the Bacon SS Pork Farm, Dr. Death's Black Pig Pen. Now, in my video I shared yesterday, I left off, I'm in a police cell, I've been in there for over 6 hours. I'm under arrest for criminal damage. A bit of graffiti, marking up those people, sending death threats full of monster black lies, calling me a serial killer, a rapist, a paedophile. As I said, phone calls day and night from all the phone boxes around this. Wheels coming off vehicles, so I'm the target. I've got all the death threats with me. Mr. Rowland's, whose office is just over there, just through the trees, Mr. Rowland's offices. He's told me that I have a very good case of character assassination, and they'd be glad to represent me, not suing anybody, not about money, but just to clear my name, £21,000. So we've marked those up behind this hate campaign, and to bring this hate crime out into the public domain, out into the open, so people in this can really see what is going on. So I'm in a police cell. Even though I'm under arrest, they've broken every Home Office guideline. They've denied me a phone call. Solicitor of my choice, Simon Nicholas Belmore Solicitors, told me there's no duty solicitor available, because they know if I have access to a phone call or a solicitor, I can run circles around their serial killer frame. And the only place I'm going to be going is home. And they've got a whole different agenda. They want me disappeared, the hierarchy in this. So, if I have a solicitor, they cannot spring their saw trap, which is their agenda. So I'm in a cell for over 6 hours. As I said yesterday, 16:15, 4 officers burst into the cell, 15-minute free-for-all, they leave at 16:30. The folder I have with me with all the death threats in, full of false allegations, haven't been logged or recorded because no interview has taken place. I've walked right into a police trap. Suppose I'm only there for an interview to say why we've marked this up, and to get the death threats and so forth logged. But they're not going to, there's no interview, no solicitor, because they don't want a paper trail, they don't want this evidence logged. Which this folder, when I'm disappeared to maximum security, solitary confinement, this evidence is also disappeared, never seen again. So they're completely perverting the course of justice, physical assault, false imprisonment, all in the line of duty. So I'm taken to maximum security, solitary confinement. I'm forced drugged. Now I don't need drugs, I don't do drugs, I didn't need drugs at the time. And I saw the closest thing to rape, really, because you're held down against your will. If you fight back, that only then reinforces that you're violent, even though you are just protesting that you don't accept being injected with drugs that you don't need. So like I say, it's a bit like a woman being forced down against her will and being injected with something she's not asked for and doesn't want. When you're held down against your will and injected with these drugs that you don't need, you haven't called for, and all against your will, you have no rights whatsoever, and that sort of is like, it's a real abuse. And again, it's a complete abuse of power by the hierarchy in this, by the police, that I'm disappeared in broad daylight where everyone turns a blind eye. So I'm in solitary confinement. We've got Mr. Clyde, who's the guy who's concocting all the drugs. Now I'm injected with 3 different kinds of drugs. I'm on a 24-hour watch. Someone is outside this cell, even though it's solitary confinement. Someone is out there 24 hours a day, even when you go to toilet, because this police have made me out to be this Jekyll and Hyde, violent serial killer, psychopath, which is not the case. They have really pushed the boat out. And Clyde completely overdosed the drugs. I think they're trying to overdose me because my heart is now beating at twice the normal rate. I'm getting up to like 156 beats a minute. I think my heart is going to stop, and I think maybe they want my heart to stop, and then they'll say that I died of natural causes or had heart attack or whatever in their Norfolk Bacon minority report. Now the staff and everyone, my body has gone into spasms because the 3 lots of drugs that have been injected, and then there's 2 other lots of drugs I have to take for all the side effects from the other 3 lots of drugs. The people who raised the alarm is not the staff or Clyde or the consultant. It's the dinner ladies. And meanwhile, Mr. Kitson in there, who's like God to everyone in there, is certainly not my God. He just goes around or comes into your room and he leaves a diagnosis like a parking ticket, just handing out diagnoses like a parking ticket. I mean, there was a psychiatric hospital in Norwich that was done for fraud, because the more diagnoses they write, the more money they get from the NHS. But he was rushing around the wards. He was seen off to the Bahamas, to his yacht in the Bahamas, and the diagnoses were never discussed. You would just come back into your solitary room. You might have been for a meal, you might have been for a cup of tea or to the toilet or for a bath, and there would be another diagnosis left next to your bed. Now supposedly, for marking up people in this with an aerosol, very good agenda, purpose for doing that is for them to press charges for criminal damage, to get a day in court with the press then, to really push out what is going on in this into the public domain. So here I am. Now we've got all the monster lies on one side of the Dr. Death silver bullet home coin, concerning Africa. People in this saying I'd got an underage girl pregnant. Some people said rape. No truth to this whatsoever. Some people said the mirror in front of her, she was disappeared into the mirror to cover the crime. Other people, and that was the fishing club too, very big in this at Kingfisher Dairies. Or some people said I disappeared her over at Halston Underground Works in a patio. And I was running a hostel for homeless young people, which was my Christian calling. And there was another guy, Fred West, who was 25 Cromwell Street, who had young people going there, and he was murdering young girls and bricking them into the walls and under the floors and burying them in the garden. Well, I certainly weren't Fred West, as people were trying to say, this big Jekyll and Hyde frame in this. So now we've got all these bogus diagnoses. Now supposedly I'm meant to be schizophrenic, I'm meant to be psychotic, psychosis, which is unheard of for somebody to have all 3 major category 1 diagnoses put on them. This is just for a bit of graffiti. Personality disorder, delusional, paranoid, you name it. Words that anybody could write in less than a minute. 7 words will bury you for life. And they're very serious, the diagnoses, even though they only take a minute to write 7 words that can bury you in a black box for life. For instance, if you're in Canada and you have additional diagnosis with schizophrenia, you're not allowed to live in the community. You have to live in supervised housing, and you're only allowed in the community under supervision. And the reason being, they had a big star report over in Canada that someone who has got additional diagnosis with schizophrenia is considered a category 1. And out of every 100 murders committed by somebody who's a category 1 is someone they know. That's a partner, a family member, people they work with, friends, people they live with. 95 murders committed by somebody who's a category 1, or people who are category 1, are all people they know. Out of 100 murders, only 5 are random. So you are considered to be a major threat to every man, woman and child on the planet. And that's why in Canada, if you have additional diagnosis with schizophrenia, you're not allowed to live in the community. You have to live in supervised housing, which is all very well, fair enough, if you really are a category 1 threat. But what a way to stitch somebody up. What a way to frame somebody with 7 words that anyone could write in less than a minute. So I've got all these diagnoses now on the other side of the Dr. Death coin, and all the monster black lies on the other side of the coin. So I'm really buried now. It's in solitary confinement. The dinner ladies have flagged up the alarm that I'm being overdrugged, and literally you can hardly move. You can shuffle, you're sitting there, you're dribbling. They're really trying to shut everything down in you, and so they have to stop giving me drugs, I say, which I never asked for, never needed. So then I go on a tea break once the drugs have worn off, and I'm doing press-ups and sit-ups and working the drugs out of my system. When I go for a tea break, I notice a door has been unlocked and I escape. This is for maximum security. So I make it out on the golf course, which is quite funny because I'm finding my way around this golf course and I hear all the dogs, and I think, the police are right on the ball. I can hear dogs coming across this golf course where I am, so I have to hide in a pile of leaves. That's the only cover there is, in quite open ground. But in, there's 2 people walking 4 dogs, which is quite funny. So I knock on someone's house where the light is on and say that my car has broken down, so I'm going to try and phone some friends in Wyndham to come and pick me up. And I had said to Julie, my ex-wife, that can she bring my boots up, because I obviously was planning to escape at any given chance I had, but she wouldn't. So all I've got is a pair of purple slippers on. So I'm asking this woman to use her phone, and she's looking at my slippers. We've got the asylum not far away, and she's sort of putting 2 and 2 together. Obviously they've put me out as missing. So I go further down the road, and then I am in a road where there's high fences, there's net fence one side and boarded fences the other, and the police block me in at either end. But they won't approach me because I'm meant to be this real mad, deranged, psychopath or whatever, which is not true, but that's what they've been told, and they won't even approach me. You won't be any trouble, Mr. Botwright, can we approach you, and all this. So they've caught me. I go back into solitary confinement. So again, they start the drugging, but not so severe. Time passes in there. Then I get another opportunity to escape. So I escape again, but I've only got a t-shirt on. Excuse me. I've only got a t-shirt on, and it's bitterly cold, so I know that I'm going to have to cover a fair bit of ground, and the elements are going to take me out. I'm going to die of, I'm going to freeze, exposure. I just haven't got the adequate clothing, so I have to go back under my own fruition. And they're threatening me, if you try to escape again, we're going to put you somewhere where you cannot escape from. They're trying to increase the drugs again. So I know whenever I escape again, it's got to be make or break. I have got to get away, because they have threatened that they are going to really make me disappear, probably be a padded cell, or I say I'm already in solitary confinement. And anything you say, the thing is too, you're heavily drugged, and then you're interviewed while you're heavily drugged, and anything you say will be twisted and used against you. So they would ask you a question, have you ever watched anything or listened to music that you could relate to? And I'd say, yeah, we've all seen things we could relate to or inspired us, you know, in a song or on the, you know, on the television. You might have watched something that you could relate to. But then they had put on the report, Johnny Botwright says that God is speaking to him through the radio or through the television. But it's not what I said. They just twist things all the way around, and just to try and make you look the fruitcake that you're not, just to justify their jobs and all their bogus diagnoses. So I do then manage to escape, but this time when I was arrested and so forth, I had some money on me that was put into hold, and I said I needed some toiletries and so forth, so they gave me some money. But then I was managed to escape, and I escaped on a double-decker bus. And as I said on my previous videos, and in the film, in the Sirius Luther, no, or in the film, the ITV Sirius Manhunt, no double-decker bus stop serial killer paedophile here. But I managed to escape now on a double-decker bus. They're completely free of the drugs that they've put me on. I make it back to this. I see the police cars go by the bus I'm on, probably heading towards the the bus station. So I get off at the bus stop before the bus station and go and get on a train. Make it back to this, and then I disappear. But I have arranged for a tribunal, because you are allowed to have a tribunal. Kitson has now gone to Bahamas, who's writ all these bogus diagnoses on me. Johnny Holmes, who's supposedly my psychiatric nurse, he speaks up for me big style. He says, this Johnny Botwright is nothing like that this police have made him out to be. You know, puts in a really good report. And so, and the other big thing in my favour at the tribunal, otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here, I would have been detained indefinitely. That was this police's aim: throw away the key, making out such a dangerous threat, keep him locked up indefinitely, because if you let him out, he's going to harm somebody or kill somebody, which is not the case. But that's how they fabricated things to get me locked up and detained indefinitely. And once you get in, and the thing is too, if the police are saying this and your local council and have really set you up and stitched you up, who's going to let you out? Because then if you do go and harm somebody, that's going to be their head on the block. So who's going to stick their neck out to let you out? So you really are in a catch-22. But the saving grace at this tribunal, the chairman was a Christian, the woman on his left was a Christian. That was one gentleman, lady on his left, a lady on his right, but two of them were Christian. And as I've run through what I've run through in my previous videos, you know, I run past them, you know, how I'd been set up, who had set me up, and why I'd been set up. And they could, like me, they could see through what was going on. So the chairman said, right, Johnny, I'm officially releasing you. And he gave me he done a special letter for me, and he said, make sure you take this to this police station and make sure they put this on their report, because in this report that he wrote was categorically saying I'm no threat to myself and I'm no threat to any other person, which was totally contrary to what this police was saying. So sure enough, I go to this police station, and who comes walking out of the door of this police station in full uniform is Inspector Bunton, Mr. Fix-It. We will fix you, Botwright, you're dealing with the wrong people. That was from this police station I was disappeared from. He is Mr. Fix-It for this council, MEP, OBE, Lord Muppet McGregor, the Red Baron of Fulham, the MP, the Mayor. He's the ringmaster. He is their Mr. Fix-It doing their dirty work. And I'm the last person that he is expecting to see. And again, his face, he goes as red as a double-decker bus, as red as a traffic light. Because literally, you know, he thought, oh, they're locking me up and throwing away the key. And what is interesting too, is later on when the IPCC take up my case, the Criminal Review Commission, and put it before Norfolk Police Headquarters and even used the word framed, Inspector Bunton denies any knowledge of me being detained, which is a blatant lie. He's Mr. Fix-It. Obviously he's the one I hand this letter to from the chairman, from where I'd been framed and detained, in full uniform, but he claims he had no knowledge of my detention, and that happened after he retired. So two big blatant lies from a police inspector, and this is not even investigated. and the case is covered up and closed down at Norfolk Bacon SS Police Headquarters, who won't even register a complaint, and that's breaking every Home Office guideline, physical assault, false imprisonment, completely perverting the course of justice, making evidence disappear, fabricating evidence. That's all acceptable, all in the line of duty, and even my right to appeal is closed down. And Tony Wright, who was the inspector, I'm not anti-police, there's some really, most police do a really good job. I mean, that was Tony Wright, who was the inspector at Thetford, who brought in 2 detectives from Scotland Yard, and who I was interviewed by. They hadn't come to investigate me, they'd come to investigate this police. And shortly after this, 5 officers were moved out of this, and Bunton did announce his retirement. But I don't know if that had any bearing on this particular case, but they did say when they left, rest assured, Mr. Botwright, we are going to look, we're going to look into this. And that's detectives from Scotland Yard, who Tony Wright, the inspector of Thetford, brought into this. So now I'm back to all these. I am completely buried. I've got all these bogus in the community, all these monster black lies, Africa and this, and I've got more bogus diagnoses than any serial killer, any paedophile, rapist, ripper, black wizard, mass murderer you can mention, past or present, all on my medical report. And the other thing is too, on one of the letters, this is how they stitch up, they claimed that I agreed with these diagnoses. No way, I never agreed with these diagnoses, not for 1 second. And I went to Sheldon, wrote to Sheldon, contacted him, who was the chief executive at where I'd been detained, to contest all these bogus diagnoses. And he agreed to chair a meeting between me and the consultant psychiatrist Kitson, but Kitson refused to attend it. The only person I can see 6 months later is Dr. Crook, Miss Dr. Kitson's right-hand man, and a right pair of crooks. There's no way that Dr. Kitson, who's put all these bogus diagnoses on me, is going to go against his boss, so he backs up his boss. So I'm buried. I've got all these diagnoses on my medical report. Obviously, I refuse to take drugs. I'm not going to, and they're all saying that I'm going to relapse if I don't take all these drugs. I say I'm not taking drugs, and obviously I never relapsed because these were just words on a bit of paper. Now the other way they trap you is because if you contest the diagnosis that have been put on you, remember you're only the patient and they are the big expert consultant psychiatrists, GPs. If you contest it, they say that this is only part of your illness, but and they also, another really gem of a situation they put you into, they say, well, we can see it, but you can't. You have no insight into your illness, which again, is a crock of shit. Excuse my language. I could see right through their 7 bogus diagnoses and their monster black lies. So there I am, completely, there's nothing I can do about it. The past to be have buried me alive. So this continues for quite some time. I mean, years later, Dr. Hume, I'm still trying to contest it. He said, no, you've had a second opinion. There's nothing you can do about it. I mean, then the job centre backed me up because it comes to a place where you have to make disclosure about diagnosis, because the pilot recently threw a plane into a mountain with 186 people on board who suffered with a bit of depression. A dust cart driver hadn't made disclosure about blackouts and killed people in Glasgow. So the employment laws were changed that you now had to make full disclosure regarding diagnosis, whether you agreed with them or not. So no one could employ me. Employment insurance, I mean, I'd always since been detained and all the monster lies, and it had always been hard. I lost my business, I lost employment, I lost my home, everything, because no one would employ you. And but when it came to you had to make disclosure, well, if there's 40 people going for a job and you've got to put down more bogus diagnosis than any serial killer, who's gonna there's no way an employer is going to employ you, because if you make full disclosure they employ you and there is an incident that you're involved in, you know, they haven't got a leg to stand on, so the doors would always be shut in my face. 16 months unemployed, you know, pushing job centre advisors were at a complete loss. I wrote to the DWP resolution team to see if they had a solution, which again is a joke. I wrote to them, I said, look, this is the catch-22 situation I'm trapped in. And they said, if you contact us again, we will report you to the police. And so you're looking for a solution. They're meant to be the resolution DWT. They're saying, we're going to report you to the police if you contact us again. So I said, well, you can if you want. This is a police frame. Now I went to the GP for the job centre, and he said to me, Johnny, how did you get here today? And I said, well, I drove here. He said, you can drive? I said, well, of course I can drive. You know, I've done driving for a living. You know, I've driven 7.5 ton lorries. I did have a coach licence, but obviously I'm not allowed now to drive a public service vehicle because of the frame and stitch up that I've been in. So he says, okay, and then he says, you know, what drugs are you on? I said, well, I'm not on any drugs. He said, well, that can't be true. You know, if these diagnoses were correct, the only way you can manage them is through these psychotropic drugs. You're not taking any drugs, you would relapse, and obviously you haven't relapsed, so something doesn't stack up here. So I've now got the job centre backing me to get another consultant. So I go and see Dr. Hume again, who now admits and says, Johnny, actually all the diagnoses on your medical report I think are wrong. So he said, and I'm going to take him off, because I'm saying to him, what do I put on an employment form now? And he, mumbling Mary, says, well, put down psychotic episode. I said, well, I didn't have a psychotic episode. And I said, and people have had psychotic episodes and killed people. So where's the mileage in me putting that down? You know, I really do need to go back and get an independent, not kits and not anything to do with where I was frame detained, an independent consultant. That's what the job centre are pushing for. And he says, well, actually, he said, you are in a box and you are down a hole. You are buried alive, and that's true. And he says, and if you make disclosure, the hole will only get deeper, will only get darker, which it was. So in the end, I went to see, I got a private consultant with John Keane, you know, consultant psychiatrist, sat and spoke to him for a couple of hours. At the end of it, it says, Johnny, there's nothing there at all. You have not got to disclose anything. Now, officially, there is no cure for schizophrenia, for psychosis, for psychotic, the 3 category 1 diagnosis. There is no cure for them. People they can manage it, they can control it through drugs, but there is no cure. But this John Keane is saying, Johnny, there is nothing there at all. Now, I haven't been healed, I haven't been cured. These diagnoses, you know, haven't vanished. The real reality is they were never there in the first place. And he also makes another really interesting comment. He says, Johnny, in my experience, I mean, this guy was a real breath of fresh air. He didn't say, oh, you're paranoid, you're delusional, or you think people are against you, you know, all this kind of bull I'd had in the past. He said, Johnny, in my experience, let me get this, I'll say this right, rural communities like this, a market town, rural communities, he said, in his experience, are the worst for these kind of wicker basket frames, you know, monster black lies and being framed, you know, by your local police and your council, and I really was, you know, in this wicker basket that had been woven with monster lies, no shortage of death threats, ostracised in the community, meant to be, you know, the mad psycho of this, you know, which again was never the case. So anyhow, that's a little bit on pre-crime. And again, you know, I'll go into, because history does repeat itself, and recently we've really nearly had a rerun of what happened in the past again, but I'll talk to you about that in another video. God bless, nice talking to you, bye.